If you can't be grateful for what you have in the present, you're not going to be grateful when and if you get that reward you're looking for in the future.
Hey, welcome back to the episode. Today I have a guest with me today that we're going to be talking some shop a little bit. He is the owner of Extraordinary Flooring and a book called Make It Extraordinary, 27 Life-Changing Lessons to Help You Elevate Beyond the Ordinary. Welcome to the show, Jacob Lawson.
Oh, thanks for having me, Brad. Been looking forward to this.
Absolutely. Jacob, so give us just a little bit of a background. I mean, obviously you're in the flooring business and you have a book now, but tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to, wanting to write a book and then in your business in general.
Well, I've been in my flooring business a little over 20 years now. I started my career working offshore and overseas, and I had a best friend / big brother of mine that owned his own residential flooring company. And when you work offshore and overseas, you'll work 3 or 4 weeks on and then a week or two off. And in that off time is when I would start picking up work with him. And so all my off time, I would work with him. And eventually, I was raised in an oil field family. My dad was in an oil field as well. And while it made for a great living, I knew I didn't want to raise my kids from an oil field. So I knew I needed to make a jump. And at 21, 22 years old, I did make that jump and moved in and started my own flooring company.
Awesome. So what made you want to write a book about, we're jumping ahead a little bit, but the Make It Extraordinary, what came out of that passion for wanting to write this book?
Well, the flooring business started as Big Jake's Affordable Flooring, which is, if you got a lot of people that have been in business for a while, their first business name isn't always the best business name. So with a name like that, you can better believe that I wasn't exactly attracting the best clients. And then so, fast forward about a year or so in, and I had an aha moment, and I said, make it extraordinary. And it was aha. There was light bulb, like change the name, make it Extraordinary Flooring. And actually my big brother at the time was like, oh, I don't know, man, that's a little much, but I was like, no, this is the name of it. So the business became Extraordinary Flooring. The motto became Make It Extraordinary for the flooring. And then it also transpired into just my everyday opinion of everything, my motto, my credence, if you're going to make it extraordinary. Why be ordinary when you can be extraordinary? You can be either a painter or an artist. An artist is of everyday, ordinary nature. Well, I would say backwards, a painter is of ordinary nature. An artist makes works of art, something that is extraordinary. It is extraordinary. It's different. So, from there, we've been in business almost 20 years, and I am inspired to write other books. And The Extraordinary Process is the original title of the first book I wanted to write. But I said, you know what? I'm still working out the extraordinary process. So what am I not working out? What have I learned so far? And that's where Make It Extraordinary came about. 27 life-changing lessons that help you elevate beyond the ordinary, which is all of the biggest lessons that I've learned in my life thus far, in personal life and in business. So I wanted to speak on what I know now, what I was ready to speak on, what has changed my life, what has propelled me, and what has done, the things to get me where I'm at.
Yeah, that's awesome. And we definitely want to jump into some of these 27 lessons. But before we do that, I want to talk a little bit just about the flooring business. How many employees did you get to? How big did you typically, or I'm assuming you're still running your business. I don't really know. Give me some information.
Yeah, definitely still running my business. It's definitely still my bread and butter. It is my passion. It is my baby. It's what I've been, in over 20 years for. Right now, we've got about 15 people on the floor. We've got, project manager, estimators, and admin, just keeping everything running. And then we've got another handful of subcontractors that run, the outside stuff that the in-house crew doesn't handle. We started off in residential flooring, tile, wood, marble. But then I quickly became aware of and fascinated with decorative concrete, acid staining, concrete overlaying, concrete stamping, things of that nature. And then that led into epoxy coatings, polished concrete, and that's really where we've found our niche at. And that's the decorative coatings, the polished concrete, the epoxy coatings. And then we've also kind of steered predominantly more focused into the commercial world. We still do residential, but our primary focus is the big commercial projects.
Okay. Okay. So what would you say, what percentage of you say was more the epoxy coating stamped concrete then?
Originally, it was probably 50-50. Now it's 90-10. So we're almost predominantly all. The only things that we do traditional hard surface floors are go-to clients. They're like, hey, we know we got you for this, but can you handle this at the same time? So we'll still handle a handful of that for our kind of select bread and butter clients.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So are you still doing like any of the traditional flooring, laminates, vinyl, any of that stuff, or just strictly coatings and polishings?
Like I said, very, very little bit. Just like, hey, can you handle this while you're here? Type things. Like it's predominantly polished over here, but can you handle this and handle that? Yeah, we'll take care of that for you. So we'll just put another sub on that and take care of that. But predominantly, our bread and butter is the polished concrete and resinous coatings.
Did that transition happen kind of organically on its own, or did you see like the writing on the wall and make the transition in your business?
What I did see is that there's competition, but there's less competition. I mean, when you talk about your traditional flooring, tile, wood, hardwood, marble, it doesn't take much for a business to get started in that. So you have a lot of people that they train their helpers, and then next thing you know, they got a pickup truck and a tile scriber and a hand grinder, and they're your competition, right? So in the polished concrete and resinous coatings, you have to have a good amount of pretty expensive equipment, and it's not going to just be anybody going to be able to jump off and start their own business. So whereas the tile and hardwoods and laminates, it's a pretty crowded market, very, very competitive. There's a lot less competition in what we do. So it's made it easier for us to stand apart from the rest.
That makes sense. That makes sense. So this is actually a pretty good lesson for guys listening. It's like being able to pivot, in your business, like regardless of what you started your business as. Let's say you wanted to you started out as a lawn care, right? Cutting grass, which is another very, very easy market to get into. But then you want to transition to landscaping or hardscapes or pools or whatever. Like being able to determine one, like you said, the original name wasn't the best, and you quickly made a pivot there, which can be, that can be a pretty daunting task. I want to rebrand, but then also looking where the opportunities are in your marketplace and then pivoting there as well. I think a lot of us we get sunk cost bias, right? Where it's like I've had this name for 3 years, I can't rebrand, or I have all the tools and equipment to do this, but there's a huge opportunity over here. I don't know if I can make that pivot. Like what would you say to people that are like on the fence about making a major pivot like that, and they kind of they think or they know they need to?
Well, there's a few things to think about on that. I mean, the one catchphrase that I hear most often is the riches are in the niches,
Yep.
and that definitely can be it. So you can be a general practitioner. Yes, we can do that, or you can be the man, the specialist, the person to go to, right? So when you are that person, you're separating yourself from the rest of the field. So that gives you that ability to charge what you need to charge to be profitable. That gives you that ability to get those selective projects. A lot of us, when we're starting out, we're like, including myself, yeah, we can do that, guys, because you're looking for work, you're trying to just stay busy. And in the beginning, that's what you got to do as an entrepreneur. You got to stay busy, right? But as you start selecting, and getting into those tighter niches, and where you become that expert in a particular trade or a particular aspect, that's where you can really start to bring your prices up and become more profitable.
I think a lot of guys struggle with this because from the outside or from a 30,000 foot view, it seems very counterintuitive, right? Like you would think like throw a wide net, I get more business, but you're telling me to just niche down to a very, very specific thing. I won't get enough business if I do that. I mean, would you agree with that? Like just from the outside, it looks like it's counterintuitive.
Yeah, I mean, you can. I mean, if you think about it, so you start off. Let's say I'm a pool cleaner. What do you got to have? You got to have a net, right? But can you trim those trees? Yeah, I can trim those trees. Well, now I got to go buy a saw and I got to buy a ladder. Well, can you build this curbing? Sure, I can, but now I got to go buy a masonry saw and I got to go buy this. So, you start trying to say, yes, I can do it. And you're buying all of these tools for this and that. And you might only do one tree trimming job a year or this or that. And you think you're doing something, but you're really just stretching yourself apart. You're becoming a jack of all trades instead of a master of one, so it can be the gift and the curse.
Yeah, I've talked about this extensively on here. I started out doing handyman stuff just because it was easy to get into, and then made the transition into doing remodeling. But that idea of, like, as a handyman, like you just said, you're doing a bunch of different things. You got to have different tools, right? And so I found myself with like $40,000 worth of different tools in a warehouse because I would do this one job one time a year, and I needed that one specialty tool, and it was crazy. It was just craziness to look at that. And I would always tell people when I hire them, I'd say the best thing about what we do is we don't do the same thing every day, right? You don't get, quote, bored. What's the worst thing about what we do? We don't do the same thing every day. So you really never get good at it. And so that's the curse of what you're talking about, is like when you do more things, there's more processes and SOPs to write. There's more tools you need. There's more skills and experience you need. And I'm sure you've ran into this too, is like if you're doing all types of flooring, then it's very hard to hire someone who has experience or skills that can do all types of flooring. They may be really good at installing hardwood floors, but they may not have any experience installing tile, right? And so, like, that goes to what you're saying, is that when you niche down, you only need one set of tools, one SOP, one marketing channel, like not channel, but one marketing message. Everything becomes a lot easier in your business.
Yeah, I mean, it goes with a lot of what you say on most of your podcasts. I mean, you got the jack of all trades, the guy that starts the business that's really handy. He can do almost anything. I can do anything, but it doesn't mean I should do anything. And you're the owner of the business. You're this creative mindset, and yes, you're so talented here and there. But you got to think about, all right. Well, I'm hiring people, right? And I want my people to become proficient in what we do. And if you're always changing it, yeah, they can get it done, but are they getting it done proficiently? And those are big lessons I had to learn in the beginning of my career. We were doing all of that. The motto was, if you walked on it, we specialized in it, whether we really did or didn't. And so, I would make money on this job, but then I might be losing money on the next, so definitely, having that, when somebody gets to do that same thing over and over, then they get to do it like the back of their head. They can do it with their eyes closed. But if they're constantly switching, then they're constantly learning and trying to get better, so it's definitely a big difference there.
I had several times where I would hire someone, and because we were, like I said, doing some of the handyman and remodeling, we were doing a lot of different things. And when you hire someone who, say, let's just say they're good at painting, drywall, you know, those types of things, and now all of a sudden you want them to start doing carpentry, like you want them to start installing trim or something. Well, there's a learning curve there, right? Like, it's going to take them some time. And what I found out was that I would hire guys and they would be doing multiple different types of tasks very early on in their, like, first 90 days, like the 90-day probationary period, right? Well, by like month 2, they're ready to quit. And it's not because they don't like the job or the company. It's because they're doing so many different things that they feel like they're failing on a daily basis. They're not getting good at anything. And so they feel like a failure to themselves. And it's like, well, I'm not good enough to work here. It's them thinking they're not good enough to work here because they can't master every one of these skills in a short period of time. But whenever you do niche it down, then it's a lot easier. Like, if all you're doing is painting every day, it doesn't take very long to be pretty efficient or effective or good at painting. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, especially when they come into the game very proficient at something, also. So that makes it even worse. They came in as this very proficient painter,
Yep.
right? And now you're asking them to do 10 other things. They're out of their comfort zone. People do not like to be out of their comfort zone. They want to be in that zone of comfort. We've brought in plenty of other people from other trades and offered them better opportunities, but they did not feel comfortable not knowing, not being that expert that they were used to being, so many people are afraid to do that. And That's one of the compliments that I've gotten from some of my mentors, that I've never been scared to reach out and stretch and try these new things, because you have to get out of your comfort zone to feel that and learn that. And a lot of people, there's a reason they call it a comfort zone. It's comfortable, and it's uncomfortable to stretch it. And people, especially when they feel really proficient, they feel like I know this. This is my trade. They don't want to go back to feeling like somebody else is teaching them.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Speaking of employees, I want to talk about kind of mentoring employees. I know this is something that you're passionate about, is mentoring employees to be, as you put, the highest selves and learn to be extraordinary. So talk a little bit about that, how you mentor your employees. What does that mean to you?
Well, I mean, I preach this to anybody and everybody who is going to listen. My motto is make it extraordinary. And, the word extraordinary to a lot of people is too much. Like they instantly go to thinking about, millionaires and billionaires and all of these luxurious things. Extraordinary is just extra on top of ordinary. It's putting in that extra effort. It is doing those extra things to improve yourself. So, and I don't just preach it in business. I preach it in life. I preach it in spirituality. I preach it in fatherhood and friendship. Putting forth that extra to make yourself a little bit better every day, whether it's 0.01% better every day, all of that adds up. And so whether your primary focus is on business or it's in other things in your life, if you're not trying to improve, you, you're falling behind, essentially, because the other people who are trying to improve, they're going to get after it, and they're going to get it, and they're going to get those spots and those things that you dream about, but they're not goals to you.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's, what's his name? I just forgot the guy's name. Very popular guy. He wrote the book, The Power of One More. My mind just completely stopped. I'm sure you probably know who it is, maybe.
I've heard similar phrases, but I can't tell you what that book is.
My mind just quit working. I mean, I've seen this guy live. I've listened. I just totally forgot.
Is it Jocko?
No, it's not Jocko. Although I like some of Jocko's stuff too. But it's
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I can't remember. Somebody's listening will know. You guys can tell us if you're listening. But anyways, he has it's the same. It's a similar concept of like the power of one more. He talks about, if I'm going to the gym and you're doing 10 reps, I'm going to do 11. Right? I'm just going to do a little bit more to do better than you. If you're working 8 hours, I might work 9 hours, get that extra hour in, whatever it might be. Just the power of one more. And very similar to what you're talking about is doing that little extra, right? That little extra at the end of the day, at the end of the phone call, at the end of the job, like whatever it is, just doing that little extra. One thing that we would always do if we were doing a project, a lot of times, probably 80% of the homes, like the doors don't close right, the locks don't, work, operate. And if we're going in their house working, going in and out this door and it doesn't lock behind you, you got to like slam the door shut we would just fix it, right? It would take us 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes to fix the problem because we're carpenters. We would understand that. And that was that little extra thing that we would do. Obviously didn't charge them for that. But, that's sounds like what you're talking about is that little extra in all aspects of your life.
I mean, that right there is a huge business lesson that anybody starting out could learn. That right there, they could have hired you to do a complete kitchen remodel, and you could have done everything beyond their expectations. But the only thing they may talk about is Brad. Before he left the house, he noticed our front door wasn't closing right. And before he left, he took the time to adjust it and put it in. And that right there could land you 10 more clients, or their best friend, or your next best client. You could have did a perfect job on the rest, and they don't even mention that. But that little thing right there, that little extra,
Yep.
could be the thing that just they don't forget, and they may talk about that for 20 years. Man, I remember that guy Brad. He fixed my door after as he was leaving.
Yeah.
So that little extra is huge. To go that extra mile, and your clients will know, and your clients will remember that.
Yeah. I mean, it's also like every time they close the door, it's like, oh, man, this thing closes so nice.
Which is the most thing they do that however many times a day for the rest of their life, and they then noticing that they got to pull on that door and the extra time to close it, and now they don't. I mean, that's
Well,
huge.
here's a little tip for you guys listening. Like that doesn't mean you have. Well, let me say two things. One, if you're not charging enough, if you're not charging properly, appropriately, it's difficult to want to do those little extra things, right? Because you're running out of time. And the second thing is make sure you're charging so that you can do those little extra things. You just throw them in there. I mean, things as simple as like pulling their trash can back to the house after the trash man comes. I mean, just little things like that. It doesn't take a whole lot of time. There's opportunity.
Yeah, no, that's putting the extra. That's putting a little bit extra on there, and sometimes it gets noticed, and sometimes it isn't. But sometimes that could be the game changer, the big difference that differentiated you from everybody else.
So is there one thing, like, is there one specific thing that you like to do with your employees in order to mentoring, like a certain type of mentoring or a certain exercise or just anything that you could share as far as mentoring employees? Because obviously, if you're listening to this podcast, you probably want to better your business. And so, dealing with employees is always a very difficult aspect of business. So if you could share maybe one or two things that you do that would be beneficial.
I mean, we have bi-weekly meetings, all team meetings. We're talking about, obviously what's going on in the business, but different things that they can do to better themselves or possibly better their financial opportunities. We try to do group activities, at least bi-yearly. One of the cool ones we did, we took everybody to the race car track, a couple months ago. That was very cool, and just some team building exercises. Um, I think the most important thing is leading by example, because not everybody's ready to follow what you say. There's a lot of in one ear and out the others, and you're gonna have that, especially the more people you have. You're definitely gonna have that. But when you lead by example, not just I say this but do this, it it backs up what you're trying to say. It backs up what you're doing, and you're not just talking the talk, but you're walking the walk. So yes, you want to do different things, to build team unity and camaraderie, but leading by example is huge. Don't say this and then do that. That I think that's the number one. Besides the extra perks that you can do to just create a good camaraderie and team spirit.
I mean, I can't tell everybody to be here 5 minutes early and then I show up 10 minutes late every day.
Exactly, exactly. Be courteous and then be an a-hole, you know. Be nice, be nice, be nice, and then sit there and talk about them, So leading by example, being that example is, because not everybody's gonna follow. You got some people that are always gonna stand out and they want to do more and they want to achieve more, and some people just want to be there for a paycheck, which is fine as well, as long as they're doing what they're supposed to do, right? But leading by example gives that inspiration for the people that want to do better and want to strive to achieve more. It gives them that inspiration, it gives them that model, it gives them that blueprint.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, just a quick time out from the show. If you're a frustrated contractor who's dealing with low profit margins, stuck working on the tools every day, or doing free estimates for people who are never going to hire you in the first place, I invite you to my private contractor community, the Profit Club, where contractors just like you are adding 2 to 3 times more profit each year without producing any more jobs and finally getting completely off the tools to never do another free estimate again. So if you're ready to increase your profits, stop doing free estimates and get off the tools, then all you have to do is click the link in the show notes to learn more about the Profit Club and see how it can easily 2 to 3 times the cash in your pocket, give you a proven sales process that will convert more jobs with ease and get you off the tools once and for all. And the best part is you can do all of this without having to produce more jobs than you currently are. Click the link to learn more. Now let's get back to the show. So let's talk about the some of these 27 life-changing lessons in your book, Make It Extraordinary. What's you want to just pick out a few or go down the list, or how do you want to move forward with that?
I mean, it'd be a long podcast if we went through all of them, but
What's the ones that have the most
it started off as just some very, very. I kind of did it in a chronological order, So it started off with some very simple life lessons that I learned early. Number one is setting the example. My dad set the example for me about what it means to go to work, what it means to sacrifice for your family. Like I said earlier, he worked offshore and overseas, so he was gone a lot, but it's what it took to put the food on the table for our family. And so he set that example and to me, the fact that he was almost always working offshore and overseas meant that he was always working, which I think is what drove me to feel like I was always working. And as a young entrepreneur and as an early entrepreneur, you're going to be almost always working if you're really trying to get after it, right? It takes a while to get that nice little work-life balance or whatever sort of that balance is, right? It takes a while. It's going to be unbalanced at first, especially if you're really getting after it. So, setting that example is definitely one of the biggest lessons. One of the other ones, in business definitely became about sometimes in order to grow, sometimes you got to trim the tree. So, just as we talked about earlier, when I first got started, can you do this? Yeah, we can do it. If it has anything to do with flooring, we can do it, right? So whatever it was, we said we can do it, and we'd figure it out whether we were proficient in it or we weren't. We did it, right? And that got me to where I had enough business in certain aspects to then trim those branches. So I trimmed the tree, trimmed some of those branches of those things that we weren't the most proficient at or didn't make the most money, didn't make the most sense, took more time and effort, didn't have the reward that it took for the time that we did it, right? So I was able to trim those branches of those trees and then really focused on those niches, really focused on the commercial polished concrete and resinous coatings. And at the time, it was a big decision when I decided to trim back that residential wide net that we thrown. We were doing about 800 grand a year in that residential setting, and I basically put about 85% of that on the back burner. I only kept my closest, easiest to deal with clients, and all the rest of them I let go of. And in that same year, we were doing about 1.5 in the commercial division, and we doubled that in 1 year. So by trimming those branches of dealing with some of the peskier, time-consuming, needy homeowners, I was able to then focus on the commercial work, which is typically broader spectrum, bigger jobs, less babysitting, less hand holding with the clients. They've got architects, they've got designers, they've got different things already laid out. They're not needing me for all of those different aspects. They're giving me the scope. We know what we're doing. There's a little bit less super pickiness in there that can be involved in residential market, right? So it gave me that ability to then expand and grow that division.
Awesome. What's some of the other ones that, as far as life-changing lessons that, I mean, it doesn't have to be business. It can be personal life or family life. What's some of the other ones that you have in the book?
One of my favorite ones is in God's divine time. So whether you're super religious, whether you're not, whether you believe in this God, that God, the earth, the energy, whatever you believe in, let's just say I call him God. It's in God's divine time. Everybody has dreams. Everybody has wishes. Everybody has aspirations. Everybody has plans. We'd like them to happen right now or next year or whenever it would be perfect and ideal for us. It's not always going to happen when it's ideal for us, So everything happens in different reasons, in different aspects, in different segments, right? So I just have this feeling and this credence that you may have plans of how you would like it to be done, but it's all going to happen in God's divine time as long as you're putting forth all of your effort, going towards it, focused on it. You have those goals and you're moving everything you can in the right direction. It'll happen in God's divine time. So that's one of my life lessons of so many people, especially in this world of Instagram, where everybody shows where they've made it, and it's this overnight success, right? Because we just saw them, but it's not an overnight success. You don't know what that person has been doing for the first 20, 40, 60 years of their life to get there. It's not an overnight success. You're just seeing it, and it looks like one, but it's not. It happened in a sequence of things, and you don't know the sacrifices or the stages that they had to climb through, go deal with the adversity of to get to those places. So that's definitely one of them.
I love that one. I mean, I agree with that 100%. And kind of to go with the whole social media thing, you see this in comments, right? Where somebody will post something, it doesn't matter what it is, pick real estate. And the guy's like, well, I own 3,000 doors. And the comment would be like, well, it must be nice to have, $100,000, $200,000 a month in reoccurring revenue. It's like, you don't even have a clue. Like this person has
What that guy did to get to those doors.
yeah, I mean, he may have been bankrupt 4 times. He might be on a second divorce, second marriage or whatever. Like you just don't know all of the things that accumulate to get to that point. But there's one thing that I love that goes in line with this in God's divine time is that sometimes if we were to actually get what we asked for, right, it would ruin us because we're not ready yet for the not only the benefit but also the responsibility that comes with that benefit. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, you weren't ready for it. It might also ruin that opportunity that you didn't even know was waiting for you. You think this, and this. If I get this, I'm there. If I get that, I'm there. But you don't know the reason why you haven't got there. And then sometimes you don't even know what the reward is going to be on the other side of it. So I am definitely a proponent of never be satisfied, always be trying to push for that next level of what your best self is, always trying to get the most optimal version of yourself is, but enjoying every second of the ride. You have to, it is okay that I know I have so many goals and aspirations that I want to achieve, but I really, really enjoy every moment of the ride in the present. You have to enjoy that ride in the present. If you can't be grateful for what you have in the present, you're not going to be grateful when and if you get that reward you're looking for in the future.
Yeah, there's a great book called The Gap and the Gain. I don't know if you've ever read that book or not.
No.
It's the difference of when you live in the gap versus the gain. And the gap is, well, once I get there, I'll be happy. Like once I have this, I'll be happy. Versus the gain is, look at how far you've come. Like look what all you've accomplished. Even if it's your first year in business, like you started a business, that's pretty
And
phenomenal.
you're here, you're
And
surviving.
you might be eating ramen noodles, to survive, but you're still surviving. You still have a business. So it's kind of that difference of, and I fall in this trap too. And this is why like social media is terrible for comparison, or I can't even talk, comparing other people, right? When you compare yourself to where you're at versus, you're in the beginning of your journey and you're comparing yourself to the guy who's on his last leg of his journey, right? You can't do that. Like your journeys are totally different, and you don't know what that journey looks like for you or for them. And so this also tracks along with what you were just talking about. Like you can't live in someone else's journey. You have to live in your own, and everyone's unique to themselves.
Comparison is definitely they say the thief of joy, right? Um, I know that I've come very far from where I was. I know that compared to a lot of people, I have done a lot of things, but I also know in that same grasp, I have done nothing if you compare me to so many other people, right? So it's a thief of joy. I seen a gym meme the other day, a guy bench pressed maybe 150 pounds, and he was like, yeah, but that guy's doing 250. And it's like, dude, you just did your best effort. It's the most you've ever lifted in your life. This is the most work you've ever achieved in your life. It's the most money you ever achieved in your life. You might still be broke. You might not be nowhere close to where you want, but it's the most money you ever made or the most business you've ever done, right? So don't compare yourself to other people that may be 5, 10 years beyond what you've done. Or maybe they even started behind you, but they just caught that lucky break, right? You don't know where they started. You don't know. They might have landed the dream client, their first client, right? Their stuff on a different rocket path than yours, but that's their trajectory, not yours. So don't rob yourself of your own joy and gratitude because you think somebody else is doing better or somebody else is doing this or somebody else is doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree with that. Well, what you got one more of those 27 you can share with us?
One of the earlier ones was make it extraordinary. I changed my whole life and my trajectory of my business when I made it extraordinary. I had that aha moment. I was still very early in my career. Like I said, at Big Jake's Affordable Flooring, I was doing Section 8 apartments, doing tile work for people that were trying to get the absolute cheapest price and then beat you up to get it even cheaper. When I changed the name to Extraordinary Flooring, it could all be one big coincidence, but within months, I was doing multi-million-dollar homes. I was dealing with very affluential clientele, um, and once again, in God's divine time, it all happened for me, and it happened, but it changed my whole trajectory. Had I been, like you said, sometimes people are scared to make that change or make that shift. You know, maybe I still would have been fighting for $2 a foot tile in apartments, right? But when I had that feeling in my heart and I trusted it in my gut, and no matter what, it was my biggest mentor at the time told me, I don't know, I think that name is too much. Didn't matter to me. What I felt, that's what I had, and that's what I did. And it changed everything. It changed my whole perspective. And then like now it's my life's credence. Now it's my motto. Now it's way more than just extraordinary flooring. It's not just Jake the floor guy that owns extraordinary flooring. It's Jake the make it extraordinary guy that's trying to make this movement and try to inspire millions over my lifetime to do things extraordinary and not settle for the ordinary, but try to make their lives and everybody else's lives around them better. When you pick yourself up, you pick up those around you. You said, oh, the must be nice. You don't want those must be nice people in your circle, and if they are in your circle and you're rising and you're not getting them out of that must be nice, and they can't be part of your circle no more because those must be nice people are acting like they can't be them. And you don't want that. You want to get your dreams and your aspirations fulfilled. And it takes work and it takes getting around other people that are trying to do the same thing. If you're hanging around, if your whole crew is must be nice guys, if that's what you hear too many times a week, you in the wrong circles. You got to change your circles and get around some people that are like, that is nice. How can I get some of that? Yes, how did you do that? Not, oh, that must be nice. You don't want those must be nice guys in your circle.
Yeah, I mean, I can thumbs up this all day long. I mean, like this is this is absolutely right on. And one of the reasons why in my coaching community, why it's so important, like when you're around other people who are constantly, wanting you to win, not telling you to your face, oh, I hope you're a winner, but then secretly wishing you fail, right? I mean, people that genuinely want you to win and they're trying to encourage you and, and helping you through that. Like 100%, you got to get rid of those people that are holding you back, and and then surround yourself. I always like to say, be the dumbest person in the room, right? Like you should be the dumbest person in the room, and then once you're the smartest person in the room, it's time to change rooms, right? It's time
Time to get a new room. If you're the biggest fish in the pond, you in the wrong damn pond.
absolutely, absolutely. Well, what's one question that I should have asked you, but I didn't,
Hmm.
or what's something that you think we should talk about that we didn't get to talk about?
Since a lot of this podcast is about getting these service-based entrepreneurs to that next level, I would say one of the biggest lessons, I mean, what got me through my first 15 years of business was sheer work ethic and determination. I wasn't the smartest business person. I fucking worked my ass off. I was determined. I would never let a project go by the wayside without me doing everything, and my abilities didn't matter if we screwed it up. We're gonna fix it. We never let anything go without doing our absolute best to leave a satisfied client. And in business, sometimes you cannot have a fully satisfied client. Some clients just won't be. But if you know you put forth every single effort to get that, then nobody can ever take that away from you. Because even if that person tries to make an example, you can say, well, I know she was unhappy about this, but I did this, and this to try to make her happy. She still wasn't unhappy. We parted ways in the best ways we can do it. So, work ethic and determination got me through my first 15 years. But then I got smart about business. Okay, so constantly being around these smart business people who have been there and done that, being in the right rooms around these people, surrounding yourself with them. In today's with all exactly what we're doing now with all of these business podcasts and Instagrams and this and that, you have so many lessons you can learn. And if there's one number one lesson that I would say is the most important from the beginning, is know your numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Know your numbers, not only in business, but in your personal life as well. Because if you know all your numbers in business, but don't have an idea of what your personal life is, then you don't know how much money you need to make in your business to survive. And if your business is surviving okay, but you're spending more on your personal life, well, guess what? It's going to make both of them struggle. So you need to know both. You need to know exactly what your numbers are in business. That means not just labor and materials. That's gross. What is your overhead? What does it cost you? What is your truck? What is your insurance? What's your tools? How many tools you're buying? You know, all of those things, every single piece of your number. And then what are your personal expenses? Realistically, not this fictional, oh, I'm on a $3,000 budget, but I'm spending five, or 4,500 every month. So knowing your numbers both personally and business wise is the most important thing. Because I know you get it all the time as well. Well, how much does this cost? Or how much should I charge for this? There is no one set number for anything that you do because every single job is different and every single person and company is different. Just because this guy charges $2 a foot does not mean you can do it for $2 a foot. You need to know what it costs you and what it costs you to live every single day of your business so that you can be profitable. So just because this person charges this doesn't mean you can't. So you need to know your numbers and what it takes for you to live, to keep your business healthy, and to grow. So knowing your numbers is on top of what you need to do for your business. Knowing your numbers is number one.
Yeah, I mean that's you preaching to the choir here. That's a very good masterclass in like business success. There obviously there's a few people that they're in this super niche market and they just make an obscene amount of money for whatever reason, and they don't know their numbers. They just happen to make so much money that they can be somewhat reckless with that part of it. That's a very small case of people, but like it goes down to one, living beyond below your means, right? Like why are doctors and lawyers broke when they're making over six figures a year? It's because they don't know what they're spending and all that stuff. So I couldn't agree with you more. I preach this to I'm blue in the face all the time. It's the part of business that most craftsmen hate, right? Because it's not swinging the hammer. It's like stuff where you have to use your brain a lot. And like me, I'm not the most intelligent person out there, so like trying to know your numbers is not fun. There's nothing exciting about it, but it's one of the most important, if not the most important part of your business. So I agree with you 100%.
If you're just getting started, it doesn't need to be overly complicated. Everybody has a phone, everybody has a notes app. Start writing down every expense that you do, every piece of spending you do. Within 1 to 2 months, you'll know everything what it is, and you can always need to be working on it, refining it. And, just like you said, typically as your money grows, so do your expenses in both business and personal life. You start making some more money, you get a nicer truck. You start making some more money, you finally making good money. Oh, it's time to buy a new house. So as just because you're making more in business or doing more revenue, if your personal finances are growing at the same pace or more, you can make $500,000 a year and still be broke. So know your numbers. Don't live beyond your means. Invest more than you spend. Not just save, but invest. You should be saving to invest. Is also the other one, right? So if you're just saving the money, it's going to get burned up inflation. But if you're saving it to invest it into something, and I guess the last tip is get out of that rat race. So in order to get out of that rat race, once your assets are paying for your liabilities plus some, then you're really out of that rat race. So when you save enough to start investing in those assets and those assets can start paying for your liabilities, now you're really winning.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what besides your book, which we're definitely going to have links to in the show notes, you make it extraordinary. What's a book that you recommend, or one that you're currently reading?
I read a lot. I've got a plethora of them. But if there's one that changed my life. And it's funny because the first time I read it, it was just another book, and I read it, it was fine, and I learned, and oh, that's nice. Second time I read it, it kind of clicked, and it was aha. And I've even heard other people on your show mention it, and so it's been mentioned before, and it's probably been mentioned millions and millions of times. But Think and Grow Rich.
Yeah.
You think about it, and you put it in your mind, and then you start putting forth those efforts, and you're constantly going at it. To me, like I said earlier, in God's divine time, you will achieve it. But if you don't think it, and if you're one of these must be nice guys that we just talked about, and all you're thinking about is the negative things in your life, that's what you're going to attract. You're going to attract more negative things. I'm a very, very promotive person of thinking positive, focusing on positive things in your life, and not worrying about things that you cannot change, right? So there's so much negativity in this world, and you can fill yourself till you're crazy with the negativity. But if you can't change any of it, then why are you focusing on it? Focus on the things that you have control over. Focus on making yourself better every single day. Focus on your dreams, goals, and aspirations that you're going after. Let the rest of the stuff go by. Be prepared as much as you can be. Don't focus on the things that you can't change. Focus on the things you have control over. Think about what you really want and go after and achieve it. Think and Grow Rich was a game changing thing the second time I read it. And a lot of times that'll happen. You read a book and you might pick up one or two things. You read it again at a different point in your life, and you're going to pick up different perspectives. And that second time I read it, it really changed my life.
Yeah, I mean that's so true with reading books multiple times. But even what you just said with the positivity, I mean that is huge. If people just did that and didn't do anything else, they would see a major increase or change in their life for the better. I mean it's just it is what it is.
The world is very weird, and not everybody believes everything, but I am a firm believer in if you're constantly focused on different negative things, you can have more negative things in your life. If you're constantly focused on positive things, you can have more positive things in your life. If you're constantly focused on all your bills, you're just going to have more bills. If you're constantly focused on your profits, if you're focused on your jobs, if you focus on abundance, if you're focused on success, those are the things that you're going to attract. And it ain't overnight. You don't just think about it and you grow rich. No, you have to think about it, and then you have to put these plans into place and work towards them. Like, it didn't just, The Secret, I thought about it and it happened and the chicks just started coming. No, it's not the case. You have to think about it. You have to believe it. You have to work for it. You have to grind for it. You have to have that work ethic and determination to say, you know what, I'm going to achieve this, whether it's in 1 year, 5 years, or 50 years. This is where I'm going to be. In God's divine time, you will achieve it if you constantly work for it.
Love it. Love it. Good stuff, Jacob. Good stuff. Absolutely great stuff here. What's the best way if people want to get a hold of you? What's the best way for them to do that?
Right now, Make It Extraordinary, make_it extraordinary is my Make It Extraordinary page. It is my lifestyle page. It is what I put out a message 6 days a week where I have a positive motivational message put behind some positive motivational music. That's my daily progression for the Make It Extraordinary. If you are in the New Orleans, Louisiana area and you want some extraordinary flooring, it is extraordinaryflooring.com. That is still my primary business and my baby. But the Make It Extraordinary movement is something that I think will be my legacy play for my life.
Well, I can definitely tell that it embodies you as a person because, the extraordinary aspect of it it oozes out of you. Which is awesome.
I can't help it now.
Yeah, I love it.
It's my life.
Well, that's good because once you can latch on to something like that and then fully live it out, you can see that in people when they're doing that. So I actually have a couple clients in New Orleans, so I'll have to make sure that they know you're down there and see if we can get you some business from them.
That would be extraordinary, Brad.
Awesome. Well, Jacob, thanks so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it. And guys, if you want to find the rest of my content, you can just search social media and for the Hammer and Grind podcast. You can find me anywhere in all of them, all the platforms. And until next time, remember, profit is not a dirty word.